The stars looked different through the viewing port of the Galactic Commerce Station. Kepler 7. Captain Jake Morrison had seen many beautiful sights during his 20 years in space, but nothing compared to the sight of dozens of alien ships docked at the massive station. Each vessel was unique, reflecting the culture and biology of its creators. Some were sleek and silver, others were organic and curved like living creatures. Jake checked his helmet one more time. The seals were tight, the air recycling system hummed quietly, and the heads-up display showed all systems green. He had worn this helmet through countless missions, and it felt like a part of him now. The familiar weight on his shoulders was comforting, especially when he was about to meet aliens for the first time. "Captain, we're cleared for docking," said Amy Carson, his security chief. She stood beside him, her own helmet gleaming under the station's artificial lights. Amy had been with him for 5 years, and he trusted her judgment completely. She was calm under pressure and had an instinct for danger that had saved their lives more than once. "Good. Remember, this is humanity's first official trade negotiation with the Veltari," Jake said. "We need to make a good impression." The human vessel Terra's pride was small compared to the alien ships around it, but it was built for efficiency and speed. Jake was proud of his ship and his crew. They had worked hard to earn this opportunity to represent Earth in galactic commerce. As they walked through the docking tube, Jake felt the familiar rush of excitement and nervousness that came with first contact. The Veltari were known throughout the galaxy as fair traders and peaceful beings. They had tentacles instead of arms and communicated through a combination of sounds and color changes in their skin. Jake had studied their culture for months. But reading about aliens was different from meeting them face to face. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and they stepped aboard the Veltari cruiser Infinite Harmony. The ship's interior was beautiful, with curved walls that seemed to flow like water. Soft blue lights pulsed along the ceiling, creating a calm and peaceful atmosphere. The air smelled of something sweet, like flowers Jake couldn't identify. Ambassador Zethkar waited for them in the main corridor. The Veltari was tall and graceful, with purple skin that shifted to lighter shades as they approached. His tentacles moved in what Jake recognized as a greeting pattern from his studies. "Welcome aboard the Infinite Harmony," Zethkar said through a translation device. His voice was melodic and soothing. "We are honored to meet the humans who have traveled so far to join our trading community." Jake stepped forward and performed the human greeting he had practiced, extending his hand. "Thank you for welcoming us, Ambassador. I'm Captain Jake Morrison, and this is my security chief, Amy Carson. We're excited to begin these negotiations." Zethkar's tentacles wrapped gently around Jake's gloved hand. The ambassador's skin changed to a warm golden color, which Jake knew meant pleasure and welcome. However, he noticed that several other Veltari crew members had gathered to watch, and their skin colors were more uncertain, flickering between curious yellow and nervous green. "Before we begin our business discussions," Zethkar said, "we would like to perform the traditional breath-sharing ceremony. It is an ancient ritual where different species remove their breathing apparatus to show trust and vulnerability. We share the same air as a symbol of friendship and mutual respect." Jake felt his stomach tighten. He had read about this ceremony, but he had hoped it would be optional. His helmet wasn't just for breathing, it contained communication systems, environmental controls, and emergency protocols. More importantly, he simply felt uncomfortable removing it in an alien environment. "I appreciate the offer, Ambassador," Jake said carefully, "but we prefer to keep our helmets on during official meetings. It's a safety protocol we follow on." "All ships," Amy nodded in agreement. "We mean no disrespect. Our helmets are integrated with our ship's systems, and removing them would cut off important communications with our crew." Zethkar's skin shifted to a confused blue color, but he quickly changed back to welcoming gold. "Of course, we understand. Different species have different customs. We will proceed with the negotiations as you prefer." They moved to the ship's conference room, a circular space with a large table in the center. The walls were transparent, offering a stunning view of the space station and the star field beyond. Other Veltari joined them, each one politely greeting the humans before taking their seats. As the meeting began, Jake noticed something strange. The Veltari seemed unusually tense. Their skin colors kept shifting to nervous greens and anxious oranges, even though the conversation was friendly and the terms they were discussing were fair to both sides. Ambassador Zethkar's tentacles moved in small, jerky motions instead of their usual flowing patterns. Amy noticed it too. She leaned slightly toward Jake and whispered through their helmet communication system, "Something's got them spooked. They keep looking at us like we're about to attack." Jake glanced around the room. The Veltari were indeed behaving strangely. Some kept their distance from the humans, while others seemed to be fighting the urge to leave the room entirely. One young crew member had skin that flickered rapidly between different colors, as if he couldn't decide what emotion to display. "Maybe they're just nervous about the negotiations," Jake whispered back. "This is their first time dealing with humans too." But as the meeting continued, the problems got worse. The ship's lights began to flicker randomly. The translation device sparked and reset itself 3 times. Even the temperature control seemed to malfunction, making the room uncomfortably warm. Ambassador Zethkar tried to maintain his diplomatic composure, but his skin had settled into a constant nervous green with flashes of alarmed orange. His tentacles trembled slightly as he spoke. "Perhaps we should take a break," Zethkar suggested. "Our ship systems seem to be experiencing some technical difficulties." Jake stood up, concerned. "Is there anything we can do to help?" "Our engineer is very skilled with ship systems." At his words, every Veltari in the room suddenly backed away. Their skin colors flashed to bright red, which Jake knew meant danger or fear. Ambassador Zethkar's tentacles curled tightly against his body, a defensive posture. No, that won't be necessary," Zethkar said quickly. "We will handle the repairs ourselves. Perhaps we should continue this meeting at a later time when our systems are more stable." Jake and Amy exchanged glances. Something was definitely wrong, but they couldn't figure out what. The humans had been perfectly polite and professional. They had followed all the protocols they had studied. Yet the Veltari were acting as if they were in the presence of something dangerous. As they prepared to leave, Jake noticed that the ship's problems seemed to follow them. Lights flickered as they walked past. Door controls sparked when Amy reached for them. Even the air recycling system made strange noises when they moved through different sections of the ship. "Captain Morrison," Ambassador Zethkar said as they reached the airlock, "we look forward to continuing our negotiations soon. Perhaps next time we could meet on the neutral ground of the station itself." Jake nodded, though he was confused by the suggestion. "Of course, Ambassador. Whatever makes you most comfortable." As they walked back through the docking tube too. "Their own ship?" Amy shook her head. "That was the strangest first contact I've ever experienced. Did you see how they reacted every time we moved or spoke?" "I noticed," Jake replied. "But I can't figure out what we did wrong. We followed every protocol, showed proper respect, and made fair offers. Yet they acted like we were about to start a fight." Neither of them realized that their helmets had been broadcasting something the Veltari could sense but humans could not. Something that made every peaceful alien in the room feel like prey animals in the presence of predators. Something that would soon change the entire galaxy's relationship with humanity. The first contact had been successful in terms of diplomacy, but it had also planted the seeds of a much larger problem that no one yet understood. 3 months had passed since the strange meeting with the Veltari, and Captain Lisa Rodriguez still didn't understand what had gone wrong. She had heard rumors from other human traders about similar incidents, but no one could explain why the aliens seemed so nervous around them. Today, she hoped things would go better. Proxima Station was the largest trading hub in this sector of the galaxy. Ships from dozens of different species came here to buy and sell goods, making it a perfect place for humans to establish their reputation as reliable traders. Lisa's cargo ship, the Star Merchant, was loaded with Earth products that were popular throughout the galaxy: coffee beans, chocolate, and various spices that aliens found exotic and valuable. Lisa checked her helmet seals one final time. The Device was standard civilian issue, designed to provide life support and basic communications. It wasn't as advanced as military helmets, but it had served her well during her years as a merchant captain. The familiar weight felt comfortable on her shoulders as she prepared to board the Xanthari freighter Golden Current. The Xanthari were known throughout the galaxy for their peaceful nature and incredible telepathic abilities. They could communicate with each other across vast distances using only their minds, and they were famous for their ability to sense the emotions and intentions of other species. Many considered them the most spiritually advanced race in the galaxy. As Lisa approached the Golden Current, she admired the ship's organic design. The Xanthari built their vessels to look like living creatures, with smooth curves and flowing lines that seemed to pulse with inner light. The ship was beautiful and peaceful, just like its creators. Captain Yelanara met Lisa at the airlock. The Xanthari was tall and slender, with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. Like all of her species, she had delicate features and moved with a grace that suggested perfect inner balance. "Welcome aboard the Golden Current, Captain Rodriguez," Yelanara said softly. Her voice was musical and calming. "We are pleased to do business with the humans. Your reputation for fair dealing has spread throughout this sector," Lisa smiled inside her helmet. "Thank you, Captain. I'm looking forward to working with you. I have some excellent Earth products that I think your people will enjoy." As they walked through the ship's corridors, Lisa noticed how different the Xanthari vessel was from human ships. Everything was designed to promote peace and harmony. The walls were painted in soft, soothing colors, and gentle music played in the background. The air had a sweet, floral scent that made Lisa feel relaxed and calm. "Your ship is beautiful," Lisa said as they walked toward the cargo bay. "The design is so peaceful and elegant." "Thank you," Yelanara replied. "We believe that our environment shapes our thoughts and emotions. A beautiful ship helps us maintain inner harmony." They reached the cargo bay, where several Xanthari crew members waited to inspect Lisa's goods. First Officer Krymuth stepped forward to greet her. He was younger than the captain, with the same pale blue skin and gentle manner that characterized his species. "Captain Rodriguez, we are honored by your visit," Krymuth said. "We have heard wonderful things about Earth's coffee and chocolate. Our people are very excited to try these new flavors." Lisa began showing them her cargo, explaining the different products and their uses. The Xanthari listened politely, asking thoughtful questions about Earth's agriculture and food preparation methods. Everything seemed to be going well, but after about an hour, Lisa noticed that the Xanthari were beginning to act strangely. Captain Yelanara's peaceful expression had changed to one of confusion and concern. Her large eyes kept darting around the cargo bay as if she was looking for some hidden threat. First Officer Krymuth was behaving even more oddly. He kept backing away from Lisa, and his hands trembled slightly as he examined the cargo samples. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by something that looked almost like fear. "Is everything all right?" Lisa asked, concerned. "You seem upset." "About something?" Yelanara's expression became more troubled. "We are experiencing some unusual sensations, Captain Rodriguez. It is difficult to explain. We are sensing thoughts and emotions that feel foreign to us." Lisa frowned inside her helmet. "What kind of thoughts? Are you picking up something from my mind?" "Not exactly," Krymuth said, his voice shaking slightly. "We are sensing patterns of thinking that are very different from our own. Thoughts about conflict, about danger, about strategies for survival. These are not normal thoughts for our species." As the conversation continued, the situation grew worse. The Xanthari crew members began to look genuinely distressed. Some of them started backing away from Lisa, while others seemed to be fighting some kind of internal battle. Their peaceful expressions were replaced by looks of confusion and fear. "Captain," one of the younger crew members said to Yelanara, "I keep having thoughts about weapons and fighting. These thoughts don't feel like my own. They're coming from somewhere else." Lisa was becoming worried. "I don't understand what's happening. I'm not thinking about weapons or fighting. I'm just here to trade goods." First Officer Krymuth stepped closer to Lisa, his eyes wide with concern. Captain Rodriguez, may I attempt to establish a telepathic link with you? It might help us understand what is causing these strange sensations. Lisa hesitated. She had never experienced telepathic contact before, and the idea made her nervous. But she wanted to help resolve whatever was causing the problems. I guess that would be okay, she said. If you think it will help? Krymeth placed his hands near his temples and closed his eyes. Lisa could feel a strange, tingling sensation in her mind, as if someone was gently probing her thoughts. At first, it was merely uncomfortable, but then something went terribly wrong. Krymeth's eyes snapped open, and he screamed in pain. His body convulsed, and he collapsed to the floor, writhing in agony. The other Xanthari crew members rushed to help him, but they too began to show signs of distress. What's happening to him? Lisa shouted, moving toward the fallen officer. Stay back! Captain Yelanara cried out. Don't come any closer, but it was too late. As Lisa approached, the other Xanthari began to experience the same symptoms as Krymeth. One by one, they collapsed to the floor, their bodies shaking with some kind of mental overload. Lisa stood in the middle of the cargo bay, surrounded by unconscious aliens, completely confused about what had just happened. Her helmet's bio readings showed that her heart rate and breathing were normal. She felt fine, but everyone around her was in serious distress. This is Captain Rodriguez to all stations, she said into her helmet's communicator. I need medical assistance in Cargo Bay 7. Multiple crew members are unconscious. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, but they too seemed affected by Lisa's presence. The medical team could barely function while she was in the room. They kept looking at her with expressions of fear and confusion, as if she was some kind of dangerous predator. Captain Rodriguez, the lead medic said, his voice shaking, we need you to return to your ship immediately. Something about your presence is causing severe telepathic interference. Lisa left the Golden Current feeling confused and guilty. She had come to trade goods and make friends, but instead she had somehow caused a medical emergency. As she walked back to her own ship, she wondered what was wrong with her in the medical bay of the Golden Current. First Officer Krymeth slowly regained consciousness. His first words to Captain Yelanara were filled with terror. Captain, he whispered, I touched the mind of a hunter. A predator unlike anything we have ever encountered. The human wasn't trying to harm us, but her thoughts were filled with tactical assessments, threat evaluations, and survival strategies. It was like looking into the mind of a perfectly designed killing machine. Captain Yelanara's face went pale. But she seemed so friendly and peaceful. That's what makes it so terrifying, Krymeth replied. She doesn't even know what she is. The human is a predator who thinks she's just a merchant. Her mind is constantly scanning for threats, calculating advantages, and preparing for conflict. But she does it all unconsciously. It's as natural to her as breathing. The incident at Proxima Station would soon become the most documented case of human-alien psychological incompatibility in galactic history. But for now, Lisa Rodriguez sat alone in her ship, wondering why she seemed to frighten every alien she met, and why her helmet's simple presence seemed to cause such chaos wherever she went. The galaxy was about to learn something important about humanity, but the lesson would come at a terrible cost. Dr. Elena Vasquez stared at the reports on her computer screen for the third time that morning. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she had seen many strange things during humanity's early contact with alien species, but these incidents were unlike anything in her experience. In the past 6 months, there had been 17 separate cases of aliens experiencing severe psychological distress when interacting with helmeted humans. Elena worked at the Galactic Health Council's research station on Luna Base, where scientists from dozens of different species studied the medical and biological challenges of interstellar contact. Her office was small but comfortable, with windows that offered a beautiful view of Earth hanging in the black sky. She had always found the sight of her home planet calming, but today she felt only worry. The door chimed softly, and Elena looked up to see Dr. Mothkar entering her office. The Veltari scientist was tall and elegant, with purple skin that currently showed nervous green patches around his tentacles. Elena had worked with him for 2 years, and she had learned to read his color changes like facial expressions. "Good morning, Elena," Mothkar said through his translation device. "I have reviewed the latest reports from Proxima Station." "The situation is becoming very serious," Elena nodded grimly. "The Xanthari incident was the worst one yet." "First Officer, Krymeth is still in the medical facility, and the other crew members are afraid to leave their quarters. They say they can still feel the mental impressions from their contact with Captain Rodriguez." Mothkar's tentacles moved in a pattern that Elena recognized as deep concern. "My people have been discussing this problem extensively. We believe there is something about human helmets that affects our nervous systems. The equipment seems to amplify some kind of signal that causes fear and anxiety." "But what kind of signal?" Elena asked. "We've scanned human helmets dozens of times. They're just life support devices with basic communication systems. There's nothing in them that should cause psychological effects." Before Mothkar could answer, Elena's office door opened again. Dr. Sylvina glided into the room, her pale blue skin showing the calm patterns typical of her species. The Xanthari psychologist was one of the most respected minds in the galaxy, and Elena was honored to work with her. "Dr. Vasquez, Dr. Mothkar," Sylvina said in her musical voice. "I have some disturbing news about the Proxima Station incident." First Officer Krymeth was able to provide more details about his telepathic contact with the human captain. Elena leaned forward in her chair. "What did he discover?" Sylvina's expression became troubled. According to Krymeth, the human's mind was constantly engaged in what he described as threat assessment protocols. Even though Captain Rodriguez was conducting a peaceful trade negotiation, her subconscious was continuously scanning for dangers, calculating escape routes, and evaluating potential weapons. "That sounds like military training," Elena said. "But Rodriguez is a civilian merchant captain. She has no combat experience." "That's exactly what makes this so frightening," Sylvina continued. "Krymeth believes these thought patterns are not learned behaviors, but natural human instincts. He said it was like touching the mind of a predator that had been designed by evolution to hunt and survive." Mothkar's skin shifted to a deeper shade of green. "This would explain why my people feel so uncomfortable around helmeted humans. We evolved as peaceful herbivores on a world with few predators. Our instincts tell us to flee from anything that projects hunting behaviors." Elena rubbed her temples, feeling a headache coming on. "But why would helmets make it worse? If these are natural human instincts, they should be present whether we're wearing helmets or not." "That's what we need to find out," Sylvina said. "I propose we conduct controlled experiments with volunteer subjects. We need to understand exactly what is happening and why." Elena spent the next week preparing for the experiments. She recruited volunteers from different species, including Veltari, Xanthari, and several others that had reported problems with humans. She also found human volunteers who were willing to participate in potentially dangerous tests. Captain Ben Sullivan was one of the human volunteers. He was a research vessel commander who had heard about the incidents and wanted to help solve the mystery. Ben was a calm, professional man who had never been in combat, making him an ideal test subject. "I understand there are risks," Ben told Elena as they prepared for the first experiment. "But if we can figure out what's causing these problems, maybe we can find a solution." Elena appreciated his courage. "We'll monitor everything carefully. If you experience any discomfort, we'll stop immediately." The first test was simple. Ben sat in a sealed chamber wearing his helmet, while Veltari and Xanthari volunteers observed him through a one-way window. Elena watched the alien subjects carefully, noting their reactions. Within minutes, the pattern was clear. The Veltari volunteers showed signs of extreme anxiety. Their skin color shifted rapidly between nervous green and fearful orange. The Xanthari subjects became agitated and restless, constantly looking around as if expecting an attack. "This is definitely consistent with the previous incidents," Elena noted. "The aliens are experiencing fear responses even though Captain Sullivan is completely calm and peaceful." Dr. Mothkar, who was observing from the control room, watched his fellow Veltari with concern. They look like prey animals who have detected a predator nearby. The physiological responses are identical to what we would expect if they were facing a genuine threat. The second test was more revealing. Elena asked Ben to remove his helmet while remaining in the chamber. The change in the alien subjects was immediate and dramatic. Their anxiety levels dropped significantly, and they began to relax. Fascinating, Dr. Sylvina observed. The fear response is definitely connected to the helmet, but removing it doesn't eliminate the effect completely. Elena made careful notes. The aliens still seemed slightly uncomfortable, but nothing like the panic they showed when the helmet was on. The third test was the most important. Elena had Ben put his helmet back on, but this time she used sensitive electronic equipment to monitor the chamber for any unusual emissions. The results were shocking. There's definitely some kind of signal being transmitted, Elena announced to her team. It's very weak, but it's there. The helmet seems to be amplifying some kind of natural human brain activity. Dr. Mothkar studied the readouts carefully. These frequencies are in the range that affect our nervous systems. They're not harmful by themselves, but they trigger our instinctual fear responses. It's like the helmet is broadcasting a message that says predator present in a language that prey species understand instinctively, Sylvina added. Elena felt both excited and worried by the discovery. We need to understand exactly how this works. If human helmets are causing these problems, we need to find a way to fix them. Over the following weeks, the team conducted dozens of additional experiments. They discovered that the effect was strongest when humans felt confident or alert, and weakest when they were relaxed or sleepy. They also found that military helmets had much stronger effects than civilian ones, but even basic life support helmets caused problems. The evidence suggests that humans naturally emit some kind of psychological signal that indicates their status as predators, Elena explained to the Galactic Health Council. This signal is amplified by the electronic systems in their helmets, creating an effect that triggers fear responses in species that evolved as prey animals. The council members listened with growing concern. Representative Zekthar of the Gentle Collective spoke first. If this is true, then humans pose a significant threat to the psychological well-being of many species. We must consider restrictions. On human travel and trade, Elena held up her hand. I understand your concerns, but we shouldn't panic. Humans are not trying to harm anyone. They don't even know they're causing these effects. We need to find a technological solution that allows all species to coexist peacefully. Dr. Mothkar supported Elena's position. The humans have been cooperative and helpful throughout our investigation. They want to solve this problem as much as we do. But Elena knew the situation was becoming dangerous. News of the discovery was spreading throughout the galaxy, and some species were already calling for human quarantine. She had to find a solution quickly before fear and misunderstanding destroyed humanity's place in the galactic community. As she worked late into the night, Elena wondered if they had discovered something that would change everything. Humans had always known they were predators, but they had never realized that other species could sense it so clearly. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their ships, but something far more primitive and frightening. The investigation was complete, but the real challenge was just beginning. Captain Ben Sullivan sat in the specially designed testing chamber, surrounded by more monitoring equipment than he had ever seen in one place. The past 2 weeks had been exhausting, but he knew the experiments were important. Today would be the most dangerous test yet, and he was nervous despite his training. Dr. Elena Vasquez checked the readings on her control panel one more time. Captain Sullivan, are you ready for the final experiment? Remember, we can stop at any time if you feel uncomfortable. Ben nodded inside his helmet. I'm ready, Doctor. Let's find out what's really happening. Elena looked at her team of alien scientists. Dr. Mothkar was monitoring the Veltari volunteers, while Dr. Sylvina watched the Xanthari subjects. They had volunteers from 12 different species today, all brave enough to participate in potentially dangerous research. Beginning test sequence Alpha, Elena announced. Captain Sullivan, please remove your helmet and place it on the table beside you. Ben carefully removed his helmet and set it down. Immediately, the monitoring equipment showed a dramatic change. The alien volunteers visibly relaxed, though they still seemed slightly uncomfortable. The electronic readings dropped to much lower levels. Interesting, Dr. Mothkar observed. The fear response is greatly reduced, but not eliminated completely. The humans still project something that makes us uneasy. Elena made notes on her tablet. Captain Sullivan, how do you feel right now? Any different from when you had your helmet on? Ben thought about the question. I feel a bit exposed, I guess. More vulnerable, like I'm not fully protected, but otherwise normal. Now, Elena said, I want you to think about your surroundings. Look around the room and assess any potential threats or dangers. Don't actually look for problems, just let your mind do what it normally does. Ben followed her instructions, letting his eyes sweep the room. Without realizing it, he began to notice things he hadn't paid attention to before. The exit doors, the location of the alien volunteers, the position of the monitoring equipment. His brain automatically cataloged potential weapons, escape routes, and tactical advantages. The effect on the alien volunteers was immediate and dramatic. The Veltari subjects began showing signs of extreme anxiety, their skin colors shifting rapidly between nervous green and terrified orange. The Xanthari volunteers became agitated and restless, looking around frantically as if expecting an attack. Fascinating, Dr. Silvina whispered. His mental state has changed completely. Even without the helmet, he's projecting much stronger. Predator signals. Elena studied the electronic readings with growing excitement. The monitoring equipment is detecting significant increases in the psychological emissions. Captain Sullivan, are you aware that you're doing anything different? Ben looked confused. Not really. I'm just looking around like you asked. I'm not thinking about anything threatening or dangerous. But that's exactly the point, Elena realized. You're not consciously thinking about threats, but your subconscious mind is constantly evaluating your environment for potential dangers. It's automatic, like breathing. Dr. Mothkar watched his fellow Veltari with concern. They look like they're about to panic. The human's behavior is triggering every predator avoidance instinct they have. Elena quickly signaled Ben to stop the assessment exercise. Captain Sullivan, please try to relax and think about something peaceful. Maybe your home on Earth or a favorite memory. Ben closed his eyes and thought about his childhood home in Colorado, with its view of the mountains and the peaceful lake, where he used to fish. The alien volunteers immediately began to calm down, though they still seemed wary. The readings are dropping again, Elena noted. When the human focuses on peaceful thoughts, the predator signals become much weaker. The next phase of the experiment was even more revealing. Elena asked Ben to put his helmet back on, but this time she had modified it with special dampening equipment designed to block the psychological emissions. The helmet is now equipped with neural dampening fields, Elena explained. If our theory is correct, this should prevent the amplification of your natural predator signals. Ben put on the modified helmet and immediately felt different. The familiar weight was there, but something had changed. He felt slightly disconnected from his surroundings, as if he was viewing everything through a filter. How do you feel? Elena asked. Strange, Ben admitted. Like I'm not fully aware of what's happening around me. It's hard to explain, but I feel less alert, less ready to respond to problems. Elena looked at the alien volunteers. They were much calmer now, showing only minor signs of discomfort. The electronic readings were at their lowest levels yet. The dampening fields are working, Dr. Silvina observed. The human still projects some predator signals, but they're weak enough that we can tolerate them without serious distress. But Elena wanted to understand the full extent of the problem. Captain Sullivan, I'm going to remove the dampening fields but leave the helmet on. This should give us the maximum effect. Ben agreed, and Elena deactivated the dampening systems. The result was immediate and shocking. The alien volunteers reacted as if they had been struck by lightning. Several of them fell to their knees, overwhelmed by terror. The Xanthari subjects, began making high-pitched distress calls while the Veltari turned bright red with fear. "Stop the test!" Dr. Mothcar shouted. "They can't handle this level of exposure." Elena quickly reactivated the dampening fields, and the alien volunteers slowly began to recover, but the damage was done. Several of them were shaking with residual fear, and one of the Xanthari subjects had to be taken to the medical facility. "I'm sorry," Ben said, removing his helmet completely. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I was just sitting here normally." Dr. Sylvina approached him carefully, still affected by the lingering predator signals. "Captain Sullivan, you must understand that you didn't do anything wrong. The problem is that humans are natural predators, and your helmet amplifies that nature to dangerous levels." Elena studied the data from the experiment with growing understanding. "The evidence is clear. Humans evolved on a world where constant vigilance was necessary for survival. Your brains are designed to continuously scan for threats, evaluate tactical situations, and maintain readiness for conflict. This mental activity creates psychological emissions that other species can detect. But why do helmets make it worse?" Ben asked. "The electronic systems in your helmets seem to amplify these natural brain patterns," Elena explained. "It's like the technology is picking up your mental activity and broadcasting it more strongly. Military helmets have the strongest effect because they're designed to enhance situational awareness and tactical thinking." Dr. Mothcar was helping his fellow Veltari recover from their ordeal. "This explains why humans seem so frightening to prey species. Even when you're being friendly and peaceful, your minds are constantly preparing for battle. We can sense that readiness, and it terrifies us." Elena realized the full implications of their discovery. Humans don't just look like predators or act like predators. They think like predators every moment of every day. Their brains are constantly running threat assessments, calculating tactical advantages, and preparing for conflict. The helmet technology amplifies these thought patterns until they become overwhelming to species that evolved as prey animals. Ben sat quietly, processing this information. "So, every time I put on my helmet and board an alien ship, I'm essentially broadcasting the fact that I'm a dangerous predator." "Exactly," Elena confirmed. "And the worst part is that the effect is strongest when you feel confident and in control, which is exactly when you're most likely to be conducting business or negotiations." Dr. Sylvina approached Elena with a concerned expression. "Dr. Vasquez, this discovery will change everything. Once the galactic community learns that humans are constantly projecting predator signals, there will be panic. Many species will demand that humans be quarantined or banned from their territories." Elena nodded grimly. "I know. We need to find a solution quickly, before fear and misunderstanding destroy any chance of peaceful coexistence." The revelation was complete, but Ilana knew it was just the beginning of a much larger crisis. Humans had always known they were predators, but they had never realized that their very thoughts could be detected by other species. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's most dangerous weapon wasn't their technology or their military might, but something far more primitive and terrifying. The question now was whether they could find a way to control this natural gift before it destroyed humanity's place in the galactic community forever. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's 3,000-year history. Representatives from over 200 species had gathered at the massive station orbiting Kepler Prime, and the tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. News of Dr. Elena Vasquez's discovery had spread throughout the galaxy in just 2 weeks, causing panic and fear among dozens of civilizations. Captain Rachel Stone sat in the human delegation area, feeling the weight of every alien gaze in the enormous chamber. As Earth's primary diplomatic representative, she had been called to defend humanity's right to remain part of the galactic community. Her helmet rested on the table beside her, modified with the latest dampening technology, but she could still feel the unease radiating from the alien delegates around her. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, designed to accommodate species with vastly different environmental needs. Some delegates sat in water-filled tanks, others in pressurized atmosphere bubbles, and a few floated in zero-gravity fields. Despite these differences, they were all united by one thing: fear of the humans sitting in their midst. Chancellor Vexthara of the Galactic Council called the session to order. The ancient Kethmori was one of the oldest beings in the galaxy, with crystalline skin that reflected light in beautiful patterns. Her voice carried the authority of millennia as she addressed the assembly. "We are gathered here today to address the most serious threat to galactic peace in our recorded history," she announced. "The recent discovery that humans unconsciously project predator signals has created a crisis that threatens the stability of our entire civilization." Representative Nalgorth of the Gentle Collective was the first to speak. The herbivorous species had always been among the most peaceful in the galaxy, and their fear of humans was evident in every word. "Chancellor, the evidence is clear. Humans are living weapons that terrorize every prey species they encounter. My people cannot function in their presence. We demand immediate action." A murmur of agreement swept through sections of the chamber. Rachel could see that many species were nodding or making their own versions of supportive gestures. The fear was real and widespread. Captain Stone requested permission to speak and was granted the floor. She stood carefully, moving slowly to avoid triggering any alarm responses. "Honorable delegates, I understand your concerns, but I ask you to remember that humans are not intentionally harming anyone. We were unaware of this effect until recently, and we are working diligently to find solutions." War Chief Graktar of the Krekstar warrior caste stood to respond. The Krekstar were traditionally the galaxy's military enforcers, large and powerful, beings who feared nothing. But even Graktar seemed uncomfortable as he spoke. "Captain Stone, I will admit something that shamus me. In our recent negotiations with human traders, my warriors have unconsciously deferred to your people. We found ourselves agreeing to terms that favored humans, not because of superior negotiating skills, but because our instincts told us we were in the presence of apex predators." This admission sent shockwaves through the assembly. If the mighty Krekstar warriors were being affected by human presence, then no species was immune to the psychological influence. Dr. Tiloreth, a respected scientist from the Academic Coalition, presented her findings to the Council. "Our research has confirmed the human studies. When helmeted humans enter enclosed spaces with other species, they unconsciously manipulate the negotiations through fear responses. We have documented dozens of cases where aliens agreed to unfavorable contracts simply because they felt intimidated by human presence." Rachel felt her heart sink. This was worse than she had imagined. Not only were humans accidentally terrifying other species, but they had been unknowingly taking advantage of that fear in business dealings. "We had no idea this was happening," Rachel said desperately. "If humans have been unintentionally manipulating negotiations, we are prepared to review all our recent contracts and make appropriate adjustments." But the damage was already done. Delegate after delegate stood to share their experiences with humans. The stories painted a picture of a species that wielded psychological warfare as naturally as breathing, even when they meant no harm. Ambassador Silkethra of the Diplomatic Corps shared her experience with human trade delegations. "During negotiations with Captain Morrison 3 months ago, our entire team experienced severe anxiety and stress. We attributed it to the importance of the talks, but now we realize we were responding to unconscious predator signals. We agreed to terms that were heavily favorable to the humans because our minds were telling us to submit to a superior predator. The situation grew worse when reports came in from across the galaxy. On Proxima Station, several species had stopped doing business with humans entirely. The Veltari had issued travel advisories warning their people to avoid human vessels. Even the normally stable trade routes were beginning to show disruptions as alien merchants refused to work with human traders. Chancellor Vexthara called for order as the chamber erupted in frightened conversations. "Delegates, please maintain calm. We are here to find solutions, not to assign blame." But Representative Kolvash of the Safety Alliance had already prepared a formal proposal. "Chancellor, I move that all human vessels be banned from docking at civilian stations until this crisis is resolved. The psychological safety of billions of beings must take priority over trade relationships. The proposal was seconded by dozens of delegates. Rachel watched in horror as species after species voiced their support for human quarantine. Everything that humanity had worked for since first contact was crumbling before her eyes. "Wait," came a familiar voice from the scientific observer section. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been granted permission to address the council as an expert witness. "Honorable delegates, before you make any permanent decisions, please consider the progress we have made in understanding this phenomenon." Elena activated a holographic display showing her research data. "We have successfully developed dampening technology that reduces human predator signals by 95%. Captain Stone is wearing a modified helmet right now that makes her presence tolerable for most species." Dr. Moth Carr, representing the Veltari research community, supported Elena's statement. "The human scientists have been cooperative and helpful throughout our investigation, Dr. Vasquez, and her team have worked tirelessly to find a solution that protects all species while allowing humans to remain part of our community," but many delegates remained unconvinced. Representative Nowgorth spoke again, his voice trembling with fear. "Even with dampening technology, humans remain dangerous. What happens if the equipment fails? What if they choose not to use it? We cannot risk the psychological well-being of our people on human promises and technology." Rachel felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Everything depended on what happened in the next few hours. If the council voted for quarantine, humanity would be cut off from the galactic community, potentially forever. "Delegates," she said, standing once more, "I propose a compromise. Humans will agree to mandatory helmet modifications for all personnel who interact with other species. We will establish inspection protocols and safety standards. In return, we ask for the chance to prove that we can coexist peacefully with all members of this community." The debate continued for hours, with species arguing passionately on both sides. Some, like the scientific communities, supported giving humans a chance to prove themselves. Others, particularly the prey species, demanded immediate and complete separation. As the voting began, Rachel realized that the future of human civilization hung in the balance. The galaxy had discovered humanity's most dangerous secret, and now they had to decide whether that secret made humans too dangerous to live among the stars. The crisis had reached its peak, and everything that happened next would determine whether humans would remain part of the galactic community or be forever isolated among the stars, feared and avoided by every species they encountered. 6 months after the emergency Galactic Council session, Captain Jake Morrison stood at the airlock of his ship, looking at his reflection in the polished metal door. His new helmet was different from the old one in several important ways. Soft blue light glowed around the edges, indicating that the diplomatic dampening systems were active. The weight felt familiar, but the mental sensation was strange, as if his thoughts were wrapped in cotton. The helmet had taken months to develop, created through cooperation between human engineers and alien scientists from 12 different species. It didn't just suppress the predator signals that had caused so much fear throughout the galaxy. It actually projected calming frequencies that helped other species feel safe and peaceful in human presence. Jake was about to make history. Today would be the first official trade mission since the atmospheric accords had been signed, and he was nervous about how well the new technology would work. His destination was the Xanthari vessel Golden Current, the same ship where Captain Lisa Rodriguez had caused the terrible incident that had started the galaxy-wide crisis. "Captain Morrison," came the voice of his communications officer through the helmet speakers, "the Xanthari captain is ready to receive you. All diplomatic protocols are in place." Jake took a deep breath and activated his helmet's diplomatic mode. Immediately, he felt the familiar sensation of his awareness being dampened. The constant threat assessment that his mind normally performed was muted, like turning down the volume on a radio. It was uncomfortable, but he had learned to live with it. The airlock opened, and Jake stepped aboard the Golden Current. Captain Yelanara was waiting for him along with First Officer Krymuth, who had recovered from his traumatic telepathic contact with Captain Rodriguez months earlier. Both Xanthari looked calm and peaceful, a dramatic change from the terrified aliens he had seen in the video reports. "Welcome aboard, Captain Morrison," Yelanara said with genuine warmth. "We are honored to be part of this historic moment." Jake smiled inside his helmet. "Thank you for your trust, Captain. I know this isn't easy for your people." As they walked through the ship's corridors, Jake noticed how different everything felt compared to his previous experiences with aliens. The Xanthari crew members they passed showed no signs of fear or anxiety. Some even nodded politely or made gestures of greeting. The blue glow from his helmet seemed to have a magical effect, transforming him from a terrifying predator into a welcomed guest. "The new helmet technology is remarkable," Krymuth observed. "I can sense the calming frequencies it projects. Instead of feeling like we're in the presence of a hunter, you seem almost like a peaceful herbivore." Jake chuckled. "I'm still getting used to it myself. Having my natural awareness dampened feels strange, but I understand why it's necessary." They reached the conference room, where other Xanthari officials waited to begin the trade negotiations. The room was filled with the gentle music and floral scents that the species used to maintain inner harmony. Jake noticed that everyone seemed genuinely comfortable with his presence. The negotiations proceeded smoothly, with both sides discussing terms in a calm and rational manner. There were no equipment malfunctions, no sudden anxiety attacks, and no fear responses. A diplomatic helmet worked exactly as designed, allowing humans and aliens to interact without the psychological interference that had caused so many problems. "These coffee beans are exceptional," one of the Xanthari trade officials commented as he sampled Jake's cargo. "The flavors are complex and wonderful. We would be very interested in establishing a regular supply contract." Jake felt pleased by the positive response, but he also noticed something important. Without his natural predator instincts at full strength, he found himself being more generous in the negotiations than he might have been in the past. The dampening fields that protected the aliens also made him less aggressive and calculating. In his business dealings, after the successful meeting, Jake was invited to tour the ship and meet more of the crew. As they walked through different sections, he saw how the Xanthari lived and worked. Their culture was built around peace, cooperation, and spiritual harmony. Everything was designed to promote calm and reduce conflict. "Captain Morrison," Yelanara said as they stood in the ship's observation deck, "I want you to know how much we appreciate the sacrifices that humans have made. We understand that wearing these dampening helmets is uncomfortable for your people." Jake nodded. "It's a small price to pay for peaceful coexistence. We never wanted to cause fear or harm to anyone." "But you must also understand," Krymuth added, "that your people's natural abilities are not entirely negative. The galaxy has become a much safer place since humans joined our community. Pirates and aggressive species have become much less active, simply because they fear encountering humans." This was something Jake had heard before. In the months since the atmospheric accords, crime rates had dropped significantly in sectors where humans regularly traveled. The mere possibility of facing a human vessel was enough to deter most criminals and hostile forces. "We've received reports from the Outer Rim," Yelanara continued. "Entire pirate fleets have abandoned their territories rather than risk confronting human patrol ships. Your reputation as apex predators has become a powerful tool for maintaining peace." Jake thought about this as they returned to the airlock. The galaxy had found a way to benefit from humanity's predator nature, while protecting peaceful species from its psychological effects. Humans had become the galaxy's unofficial peacekeepers, using their reputation to prevent conflicts before. They started as Jake prepared to leave the Golden Current. He received a priority message from his ship. "Captain," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a distress call from a civilian transport in the Alpha Centauri system. They're being attacked by unknown raiders." Jake looked at Captain Yelanara, who nodded with understanding. "Go, Captain Morrison. Do what humans do best." Jake hurried back to his ship and ordered an immediate course change. Within hours, Terra's Pride arrived at the coordinates of the distress call. They found a large civilian transport surrounded by 3 smaller raider vessels. "Unknown ships," Jake broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain Morrison of the human vessel Terra's Pride. You will cease your attack and withdraw immediately." The response was immediate. The raider ships broke off their attack and fled the system at maximum speed, leaving the civilian transport unharmed. Jake didn't need to fire a single shot or even remove his diplomatic helmet. The mere announcement that humans were present was enough to end the conflict. "Thank you, Captain Morrison," came the grateful voice of the transport's captain. "Those raiders had been threatening us for hours. How did you make them leave so quickly?" Jake smiled as he set course back to his original destination. "We just told them who we were." Later that evening, Jake sat in his quarters reviewing the day's events. The new system was working better than anyone had hoped. Humans could interact peacefully with other species while maintaining their role as the galaxy's protectors. The diplomatic helmets allowed for safe contact. While humanity's fearsome reputation kept hostile forces at bay, he thought about the pirate Captain Carl Tucker that intelligence reports had mentioned. Tucker had reportedly removed his helmet entirely during raids, causing entire crews to surrender without resistance. Such incidents were becoming rarer as the galaxy adapted to human presence, but they served as reminders of what humans could be when unleashed. Jake's communication system chimed with an incoming message from Dr. Elena Vasquez. "Captain Morrison, congratulations on the successful mission. The Xanthari have already transmitted positive reports to the Galactic Council. Your success today will help convince other species to participate in the exchange program." The exchange program was the next phase of human integration. Selected human crews would work directly with alien vessels, serving as security consultants and peacekeepers. In return, aliens would share their advanced technologies and cultural knowledge with humanity. Jake felt hopeful about the future. The galaxy had learned to coexist with humanity's apex predator nature, channeling it into something positive rather than destructive. Humans had found their place among the stars not as conquerors or merchants, but as the guardians who kept the peace through the simple threat of their presence. The new accord had worked. Humans would never again board alien ships with unmodified helmets, but they had gained something more valuable in return. They had become the galaxy's protectors, feared by those who would do harm and respected by those who sought peace. As Jake prepared for sleep, he wondered what other challenges awaited humanity among the stars. But he was confident that whatever came next, humans and aliens would face it together, united by understanding and mutual respect.